American whiskey fills more glasses in this country than any other spirit, yet most drinkers never venture beyond the same 5 bottles their fathers poured. Today, we're ranking 15 famous American whiskey brands from absolute worst to genuinely exceptional. And trust me, number 1 is going to shock you. Starting at the bottom, we have Seagram's 7 Crown. Born in the 1930s as the perfect partner for 7-Up, Seagram's 7 Crown is the whiskey equivalent of a participation trophy. Present, functional, and completely forgettable. The light caramel color and faint vanilla sweetness suggest potential, but one sip reveals the truth. This is blended whiskey engineered for volume, not character. The flavor vanishes like carbonation in flat soda. There is no complexity to explore, no finish worth remembering. Seagram's built its empire during an era when Americans wanted smooth and cheap over bold and interesting. Every dive bar in the country still keeps a dusty bottle behind the counter. Old-timers order it out of habit, not preference. At this price point, you are buying something to mask with mixers, not savor. When your greatest achievement is enabling the 7 and 7 cocktail, your place at the bottom is secured. At number 14, we have Kessler American Blended Whiskey. Kessler has carried the slogan "Smooth as Silk" since Julius Kessler founded the brand in 1888. The problem is that silk has no flavor either. This blended American whiskey delivers exactly what the bottom shelf promises: affordability without artistry. The nose offers thin caramel and grain alcohol. The palate follows with mild sweetness that exits faster than guests at a boring party. Kessler once held legitimate respect in whiskey circles, but modern production prioritizes consistency over craft. Now owned by Jim Beam, it survives on brand inertia and rock-bottom pricing. You will find it in bowling alleys, veterans' halls, and anywhere the bar tab matters more than the bar quality. Kessler works in mixed drinks where other ingredients do the heavy lifting. Neat, it reminds you why people invented mixers in the first place. Number 13 brings us Old Crow. This brand carries historical weight that its current form cannot support. Dr. James Crow literally invented the sour mash process that defines American whiskey, and legends claim this was Abraham Lincoln's preferred pour. That pedigree should mean something. Instead, today's Old Crow tastes like a faded photograph of what bourbon could be. You get sharp grain up front, a whisper of caramel in the middle, and a finish that burns without warmth. The mash bill is standard, the aging minimal, and the result predictable. Old Crow survives on name recognition and price tags designed for quantity buyers. College towns keep it stocked. Budget drinkers defend it as not that bad, but bourbon enthusiasts walk past without a second glance. Heritage cannot save whiskey from mediocrity, and Old Crow proves that every day it sits unsipped on shelves. Jim Beam White Label might be the most recognized bourbon on earth, but familiarity is not the same as greatness. Distilled by 7 generations of the Beam family in Kentucky since 1795, this bottle built its empire on availability rather than ambition. The aroma offers vanilla, toasted oak, and that distinctive peanut shell note some drinkers love and others politely ignore. On the palate, you find mild sweetness and light spice that disappear before you can fully register them. The finish is short and utilitarian. Beam thrives in high-volume environments because it never surprises anyone. It mixes cleanly, sips easily, and demands nothing from the drinker. This is the house bourbon people default to when they do not feel like thinking. Good enough for a cookout, rarely memorable enough to discuss afterward. Beam is reliable, affordable, and exactly what you expect. Nothing less and nothing more. Number 11. Jack Daniel's is not just whiskey. It is an American institution wrapped in black and white. From honky-tonks to Hollywood, that square bottle has been the rebel's badge for generations. Frank Sinatra was buried with a bottle. Lemmy from Motorhead made it his entire personality. Every rock concert since 1970 seems to feature it backstage. But strip away the mythology, and what remains is Tennessee whiskey that prioritizes smoothness over complexity. The Lincoln County process, filtering through 10 feet of sugar maple charcoal, creates that signature gentle sweetness. Banana bread, light smoke, and caramel. Some call it syrupy. Others call it perfect for their purposes. The truth lives somewhere between those positions. Jack Daniel's dominates because it feels like America in a glass, not because it challenges your palate. It is bourbon's more approachable cousin, designed for accessibility rather than depth. At its price point, you can find more interesting bottles, but few carry the same cultural weight or instant recognition. Number 10. Evan Williams Black Label sits quietly beside flashier bottles, content to let others chase headlines while it delivers genuine value. Named after the man who established Kentucky's first commercial distillery in 1783, this bourbon carries real history without demanding premium prices. The nose offers caramel, oak, and baking spice that suggests something more expensive hides inside. The flavor holds longer than budget bourbon has any right to, with an honest burn that reminds you real whiskey lives here. Evan Williams does not rely on celebrity endorsements or fancy marketing. It wins through merit alone, punching above its weight class consistently. Bartenders recommend it when customers want quality without the financial sting. It has quietly become the overachiever of American whiskey, proving you do not need to spend $50 to taste something worthwhile. When your budget matters, but your palate still demands respect, this bottle makes sense. 9. That rugged frontier bottle with thick glass and slanted label occupies every bar shelf from Nashville to New York. Bulleit Bourbon looks like craft whiskey, even though it flows from a major distillery operation. Tom Bulleit revived his family's pre-prohibition recipe in 1987, and the high rye mash bill at 28% gives it distinctive character that separates it from sweeter competitors. You taste dried orange peel, sharp spice, and caramel before a dry finish that lands like a firm handshake. It is bold but not deep, designed for cocktails more than contemplation. Bartenders love Bulleit because it behaves predictably in any recipe. It stands up in an old-fashioned, cuts through a Manhattan, and never overwhelms. The aesthetic appeal attracts newcomers, while the flavor profile keeps them curious about what else bourbon can offer. Bulleit built its empire on approachability and photogenic charm. Behind the leather and frontier marketing lives corporate whiskey done competently. Professional, consistent, and just adventurous enough to earn this spot. Number 8. George Dickel remains Tennessee whiskey's proudest underdog. While Jack Daniel's conquered the world, Dickel stayed focused on craft in the small town of Cascade Hollow. The difference starts with temperature. Dickel chills its whiskey before the charcoal mellowing process, claiming smoother results. Whether chemistry or marketing, something works. This Tennessee whiskey pours with notes of butterscotch, oak, and subtle corn sweetness that feel more refined than its famous neighbor. The finish lingers longer, with genuine warmth instead of quick heat. George Dickel No. 12 has earned respect among whiskey enthusiasts who appreciate the brand's stubbornness about quality. It refuses to chase trends or inflate prices beyond reason. The bottle sits at a fair price for what it delivers, which is increasingly rare. In blind tastings, Dickel frequently embarrasses more expensive competition. It proves that Tennessee whiskey can be both traditional and excellent when a distillery cares more about liquid than label. 7. Rittenhouse Rye carries the bottled-in bond designation, which means it meets strict federal requirements. Produced at one distillery, one distilling season, aged a minimum of 4 years, and bottled at exactly 100 proof. This is American whiskey law with teeth, and Rittenhouse delivers on every promise that designation implies. The flavor profile is classic rye, peppery spice, dried fruit, and herbal notes wrapped around a solid oak backbone. There is bite here, but also remarkable balance that reveals itself more with each sip. The 100 proof strength means it holds its character in cocktails without getting lost behind other ingredients. Bartenders across America consider Rittenhouse absolutely essential for proper Manhattans and Sazeracs, and many refuse to make those cocktails with anything else. The price remains remarkably fair for a bottled-in bond whiskey, making it accessible to drinkers who want quality without pretension or inflated price tags. Rittenhouse has won more cocktail competitions than bottles twice its price. It represents American rye whiskey at its most honest, bold, structured, and built for people who understand that heat and flavor can coexist beautifully. Number 6. When a bourbon prints its proof proudly on the label, it is making a statement. Wild Turkey 101 is American whiskey at its most unapologetic. Distilled under the watch of Jimmy Russell, who has been master distiller since 1954, longer than anyone in the industry, this bottle has fueled countless campfire stories and country songs. The flavor arrives swinging, cherry and cinnamon up front, rich caramel through the middle, and oak with genuine heat on the finish. There is bite, but there is also remarkable balance. That is the magic of 101. It punches well above its modest price without sacrificing manners. Wild Turkey built its reputation through loyalty, not marketing gimmicks. Old-school drinkers love it because it never softened to chase trends. Bartenders trust it because it holds flavor in any cocktail. New drinkers discover it and realize what bourbon should taste like. You can sip it slow and appreciate the complexity, or mix it fast and watch it hold its own against any ingredient. This is not refined whiskey. It is real whiskey. And sometimes real is exactly right. 5. Four Roses Small Batch does not chase trends or shout for attention. It whispers, and serious whiskey drinkers lean in to listen. What makes this bourbon remarkable is production methodology. 2 distinct mash bills combined with 5 proprietary yeast strains create 10 unique recipes. These are then carefully blended into something greater than any single element could achieve alone. The result is layered complexity that unfolds with every sip. You find floral notes, warm honey, rich toffee as a and a slow-building warmth that finishes remarkably clean. This is bourbon made for contemplation rather than flexing. Four Roses earned respect through word of mouth among people who actually know whiskey, not through celebrity endorsements or social media campaigns. No artificial scarcity, no hype machine, just excellent bourbon that proves quality does not need volume. When someone asks where to start exploring beyond entry-level bottles, Four Roses Small Batch is the answer that never disappoints anyone willing to pay attention. Number 4. If American whiskey wore a tuxedo, it would be Woodford Reserve. Born in Kentucky's limestone-rich hills and distilled in copper pot stills that have been operating since 1812, this bourbon represents the refined side of Southern tradition. It became the official bourbon of the Kentucky Derby for good reason, and that association with American racing royalty feels entirely appropriate. Pour a glass and discover caramel, orange peel, dark chocolate, and roasted oak dancing together with precision. The mouthfeel is silky smooth. The finish extends warmly without overstaying its welcome. Nothing here feels aggressive or experimental. Instead, it is composed, balanced, and quietly confident. Woodford speaks smoothly and expects you to appreciate the craft behind every sip. In your glass, it plays the perfect diplomat. Elegant enough for serious whiskey enthusiasts, approachable enough for curious newcomers still developing their palates. This is bourbon that proves good whiskey needs no gimmicks, just care, time, and patience. Luxury that feels earned through craftsmanship, rather than manufactured through marketing. 3. Buffalo Trace has become the bottle everyone hunts, and few people find it at retail. The distillery itself has operated continuously since 1773, making it the oldest working distillery in America. That is not marketing, that is history you can taste. When you finally locate a bottle at its suggested price, the first sip explains the obsession. Brown sugar and orange peel led into rich caramel, solid oak presence, and a subtle tobacco finish. The texture is creamy, the finish long and clean. This is not the strongest bourbon available, and it is certainly not the rarest, but it might be the most balanced in America. There is remarkable harmony here, and elegance that feels timeless rather than trendy. Buffalo Trace grew famous organically through enthusiasts spreading the word rather than advertising campaigns. It became the gateway for collectors chasing Pappy Van Winkle, Eagle Rare, and Blanton's. Despite the hype and allocation games that now plague bourbon culture, this remains working-class bourbon at heart, priced for everyday shelves, built for lasting legacy. The challenge is simply finding one before someone else does. 2. That iconic red wax dripping down the bottleneck is recognizable from across any room. Since Bill Samuels Sr. created the recipe in 1953, Maker's Mark has stood for quality without pretension. The secret is the mash bill. While most bourbons use rye for spice, Maker's substitutes soft red winter wheat, creating a distinctively round sweetness that changed how Americans think about bourbon. You taste caramel, vanilla, warm baking spice, and a smooth buttery finish that never disappoints. Every bottle feels like a handshake from Kentucky itself. Honest, warm, and easy to trust. Maker's built its legend through heart rather than hype. The hand-dipped wax seal done by actual human hands, handwritten labels, and visible craft feel authentic because they are. Whether drunk neat, over ice, or in an old-fashioned, this bourbon delivers consistent excellence every single time. In a world obsessed with limited editions and impossible to find bottles, Maker's Mark remains the gold standard of accessible excellence. It is the bourbon your father trusts, your bartender respects, and everyone agrees on regardless of experience level. That consensus is earned through decades of quality, never manufactured through artificial scarcity. Number 1. Henry McKenna, Single Barrel 10 Year Bottled in Bond. Here is a secret the allocated bourbon hunters do not want you to know. The best American whiskey you can actually find costs around $40. Henry McKenna took home Best in Show Whiskey at the 2019 San Francisco World Spirits Competition, defeating bottles priced at $200 and above. That was not a fluke or a lucky barrel. This is bottled-in bond whiskey aged a full decade, each bottle drawn from a single barrel, delivering complexity that so-called rare expressions struggle to match. The first sip brings rich caramel, vanilla, toasted oak, and subtle fruit notes that evolve as you linger. The 100 proof strength carries every flavor without harshness. The finish is long, warming, and impossibly smooth for its age. Where other bourbons this good require lottery entries, secondary market markups, and connections to liquor store managers, Henry McKenna sits patiently on store shelves waiting to be discovered. Heaven Hill Distillery created something remarkable here. Single barrel character, a decade of aging, bottled in bond integrity, all at a price that respects the everyday drinker rather than exploiting their passion. This is bourbon that proves you do not need connections, waiting lists, or inflated budgets to taste excellence. You just need to know where to look. Henry McKenna. 10 Year is the most impressive American whiskey hiding in plain sight, and that is exactly why it takes the crown.